In May of last year, I answered a Craigslist ad for a roommate. I don't see the person who has the lease very often because they are rarely around. That person moved out in July of last year, leaving just me living in the house. The house is nice, and it has the charm of a smaller Victorian-style home from the East Coast. It's very unique, with its old wooden floors and tall windows, but it's not nearly as big as the typical Victorian houses. Things went badly for me after I moved into this house because my relationship broke up. The roommate who stayed after July had a terrible attitude and bad behavior, so the landlord finally kicked her out. After meeting the current tenant, I chose to take over the lease, but we didn't end on good terms. Since then, I felt uneasy when I was home by myself. There was something off about the house that made it feel different. So I checked the bulbs and wires because the lights in the house kept going on and off. But everything seemed fine. Then I heard strange sounds coming from the basement, like an animal or maybe a rat moving around. The next night, a good friend of mine came over, and we were just hanging out when we both heard what sounded like footsteps coming from downstairs. The whole house has wooden floors, so I could hear footsteps very clearly, especially going up and down the stairs. I went to check several times, but no one was there. It kept happening, and I began to feel a lot of stress. In the end, I bought each room a new door lock. I put them up so that the keyhole faces inside the rooms and the twist lock faces the hallway. I could lock myself in the room if I ever felt nervous that way. This was done so that if someone broke into the house, they would be stuck in the room they went into. When I was sad, angry, or just aware that I was by myself, the house seemed to be busier. I went to bed last night after a long day. Even when I'm sleeping, I'm usually very aware of what's going on around me. Once more, I heard footsteps on the stairs. I was so scared that I called a friend to come over and sleep with me. I began to research the house's past to discover if there were any deaths or strange events that took place on the land, but I did not discover any. Then my landlord came by a few days ago to see how things were going. He told me that he and his mother used to live in the house, but now they move out because of strange things happening to them. Just like that I've been going through. These strange things are happening more often now than they did before, and I can't take it any longer. My search for a new home has begun, and I will leave this one as soon as I find one. A few hours ago, I was taking my regular 10-minute break in town outside. Every day I do this because I need a break from work, if you understand what I mean. When I heard a bike stop in front of me, I looked down at my phone and watched some clips. The biker was a man, plus he had a bag full of loose Diet Cokes on him, even though it was 70 degrees outside. I said hello back because I'm too nice not to. Then he asked how I was doing. I didn't say much because I didn't want to push him away in case he did something strange. Then he asked what my name was, and I gave him my real name, which was my first mistake. He asked me where I worked and said his name was James. I told a lie and said I worked at the nearby breakfast spot. He then asked if he could sometimes stop by and talk to me. I lied and told him I couldn't do it because I was going on a long holiday. He then gave me a Diet Coke and said he could get me another one if I wanted. To get him to leave me alone, I told him again no, and I can't drink soda. Then he asked, "Do I look old to you?" I told lies and said no. After that, he said I looked about middle-aged, not too old. I'm not sure what he was talking about because I'm in my mid-20s. Thanks, I just said. He wanted to know where I lived. What if I lived in this town? He asked me if I lived nearby, but I told him no. That was just another lie to get him to leave me alone. After that, he saw my shirt. And it was the worst day ever for me to wear a shirt with my job's name on it. He read it out loud, so I quickly told a lie that I used to work there. I wore the shirt because of that. Then I asked a friend to help me, and the guy rode off on his bike. I wish I never saw him again. I don't know what was wrong with him. For extra money, I used to do DoorDash. My name is Sarah, and I'm 22 years old. This happened in the summer of 2018, which is still pretty new for DoorDash in my town. I think they've changed a lot since then. But it wasn't very organized back then. DoorDash is a food delivery service that most of the time works with places that don't offer delivery themselves, just like McDonald's. Anyway, after making trips all day, I chose to take my last order at 10 p.m. one night. Even though I was tired, I thought one more wouldn't hurt. At a nearby pizza place, the order was for a medium cheese and pepperoni pie with loaded potato wedges on the side. I thought it was a little strange because this pizza place already has its own delivery service. I thought they might be quick, but then I remembered that they often send things late. That person may have thought it would be faster to order through DoorDash instead. I agreed to the order and went to the pizza place. When I got there, I got the pizza, checked the app to make sure I had everything I needed, and then I drove to the customer. I also saw special directions from the customer on the app. They told me to call them when I got outside. That looked fine because lots of people do that. I took a car to their home, which was in the downtown area. It was very dark outside, and there was a big apartment building there. I got a creepy feeling right away. I parked my car next to the curb and stayed there. I was not going anywhere near that building. I called the number the customer gave me, and DoorDash has a function that hides your real number, which is helpful. The phone rang a few times, and then this really creepy woman answered it. She said that, and then laughed in a very strange way. Another woman crying like she was in great danger could be heard in the background. Even more screams could be heard, as if the creepy woman moved the phone closer to the other lady. I got very scared and hung up the phone right away. I then drove as fast as I could without stopping to think about where I was going. Thanks to a busy restaurant a few blocks away, I was able to pull into their parking lot and open the app. I called the DoorDash help center because I was afraid I would get in trouble for not bringing the order. There was a 30-minute wait for the customer to call or text me about their food, they told me. Thank goodness they didn't call. When I got to the restaurant parking lot, I called my mom to tell her what had happened. It seemed like a joke to both of us, but we both agreed that I should call the cops just in case. I called the police line for non-emergency calls and told them everything. They thanked me for letting them know and said they would do a health check. I found out the next morning that the cops didn't find anything strange or funny when they went to the apartment. They tried calling the customer several times, but the phone was always off. Then 2 police officers checked each room in the building to see if everyone was okay. They didn't find anything in the end. After that, I stopped making deliveries at night. I don't know what happened after that. There's a ghost in the house next door, and I don't know what to do or even if I should do anything. That big old house looks kind of creepy, and it hasn't been lived in a long time. The last people who bought it started to fix it up, but all of a sudden they stopped. They bought it from 2 other people, but neither of them stayed for long. The house keeps getting bought. They never stay longer than a few years, though, before leaving it empty again. There has been no one living in the house since the repairs were finished and no one moved in. But I began to notice some movement about 6 weeks ago. Late at night, but never before 1 a.m., I saw the lights in the rooms come on. Since I work from home and often late at night, I'm awake all night. I first thought it was nothing out of the ordinary. I thought the owners might have come back to get something they left behind when they quit working on the house. But there were never any cars in the garage. It happened again around 2 a.m. Once more, there were no cars there. It scared me that someone might have broken in. That's why I called the cops. When I opened the door, I thought the police would be there. If it was just the owners, it wasn't a big deal. The cops could stop them if it wasn't a crime and it was squatters or people breaking into party. That old grand house is now very pretty, and it would be a shame if it got destroyed. I was scared because I care a lot about old houses. In any case, the police came and checked out the house. There was no answer when I knocked on the door. There were no signs of a break-in, so they said they couldn't go inside without the owner's permission. They looked through the windows and knocked again. After a few days, when it happened again, I called them again. Like before, they came and checked everything, but they didn't find anything because they couldn't see or hear anything. They did nothing. They told the owners that they would call them to let them know that someone might be breaking into their empty house. I haven't talked to the owners yet. After they told me they were not going to remodel, they never came back. It wasn't like we lived close enough for me to have their phone number or anything. You may be wondering why I believe the house is haunted. Now things start to get strange. I didn't think the police took my call seriously the last time I made it. It could be that they don't care because the house is empty. They might also think I'm crazy or making it up. I don't care and don't know. I chose to record it with my phone the next time it happened, though. I didn't see anything for 4 whole days. This time, I knew it was 3 a.m. because Alexa set an alarm for 16 minutes while I was baking a frozen pizza. I went into the kitchen to get the pizza out of the oven when the alarm went off. When I saw that the basement lights in the next door house were on, I quickly got my phone and began recording. As soon as I began, a light turned on in their kitchen that faces me. Right then, the light in the basement went out. Things got even weird after that. First, the light came on in the kitchen, then in the front of the house, then on the second floor, in the attic window, and finally in the basement again. I don't mean that someone turned off the light in the basement, went upstairs to turn on the light in the kitchen, and then went to a different room to turn on a different light. I mean that the lights were turning on and off quickly in different places at the same time. It doesn't make sense. Also, why would someone break into a house with a bunch of friends just to turn on and off lights in different rooms at the same time? That's why I recorded it and called 911 again. There were no lights on when they got there. They looked at me like I called because I was bored and not because something was really wrong. I showed them the tape on my phone, but it was broken and wouldn't play. It turned out that the police did the same thing they did before. After they left, I saw the light in the attic go on and off more than once, as if to say, screw you. Something goes wrong every time I try to record or take a picture of it. Either the recording is broken and won't play, or the picture won't load. It never works when I try to take pictures with my phone or computer. There was another one 3 nights ago, but I did nothing to stop it. I didn't pay attention to it and claimed not to see anything. That night I didn't have to work and I hadn't slept much. I chose to lie down on the couch and watch TV until I fell asleep. I went into the kitchen to turn off the light on my Betta tank, which is on the counter, while I was taking things away. Like I always do, I said, "Good night, fish." For fun, I looked out the window and said, "Good night, ghost." But the light in the living room turned on as soon as I said it. However, not with white light. It looked like someone had switched out the light for a red one this time. After that, it turned off. After about 15 minutes, my cat, who was lying on my stomach, jumped up, hissed, and ran out of the room. As soon as I sit up, I hear someone on the front doorknob. Right away, I went to the front door and peeped through the crack. There was no one there. Should I forget about it and act like I don't see anything? Should I try to figure out what's going on and why? What are some ways I could check to see if what I'm seeing is really supernatural? Yesterday, I moved into a new house and paid the rent for the first month. I agreed to rent for a year. The house is nice for being from the 1930s, but it does have some problems. There's a lot of work to be done, like fixing the floors and paint that's coming off. They also put rooms together in a way that doesn't make sense. Really, it's not the best house, but I had to get what I could because it's hard to rent right now. I called the number right away when I saw the house on Craigslist. I needed to find a place so badly that I asked if I could see it that same day or during the week. I felt bad about the guy right from the start. It wasn't that he was creepy, but he was annoying. He agreed to show me the inside of the house on Saturday. Before that, though, he texted me several times a day asking, "Are you sure you want to see the house? I don't want to waste time." I told him over and over that I lived 5 minutes away and would be there on Saturday for sure. I should say that I found this house for my old father and me, who both use wheelchairs. There was a friendly-looking owner outside in the yard when we got there. He waved back when I said hello. After that, I went to the passenger side of the car to help my dad. I helped my dad, and the landlord's face changed as soon as he saw me. He stopped smiling and started frowning, making him look like he was upset or angry. When we got close to him, my dad put out his hand for a shake. But the owner didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he looked at me and said, "I thought it was just you." He didn't even look at my dad. I tried to explain that I hadn't brought it up because he hadn't asked. After that, he showed us the house. He could live there, so we gave him the deposit. We moved in over the weekend and paid the rent on the 6th. The owner told me one day that he had to come to the house to fix some plumbing. That was fine with me, but I had to go to work. I would leave the key on top of the door. For me, work is over around 12:30, and I told him that. He texted me again around 10 a.m. and asked me to confirm that I would not be home before 12:30 because of a safety risk. That day I got off work early and was going home around 11, even though I told him I would be there after 12:30. Remember how I said the house is set up in a strange way? This is because the front door leads straight into a bedroom. I own that bedroom. To the left is another door that goes into the living room. The living room is connected to the kitchen, and then there is a room in the back with the bathroom. I turned the doorknob and saw that it wasn't locked. I saw my boss in a hurry as soon as I walked in. I quickly left my bedroom. He sped out the back door, ran through the kitchen, and past the back room. It was clear he wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. Then I saw him quickly pull out of my driveway. When I got back to my bedroom, I was really lost. Almost all of my drawers were open and things were all over the place. It was also open on my nightstand. I'm stuck here and don't know what to do next. With my credit, it's hard to find a new place to live. And it's even harder to find a house that can be reached by wheelchair.